Welcome back to Penzance and the coast path. I've got to admit, it feels pretty surreal being back here, having spent nearly 3 weeks last year on the trail. To come back after 10.5 months from being away from it feels pretty weird. It's been a long journey down here, 5 hours from Paddington. I'm just leaving Penzance behind me now. It's the reason why you've had a big gap in videos from this. It just takes too long to get to Penzance. Even a 4-day weekend isn't enough time to get down here and get to the next train station at I think it's Falmouth. But it's a late start today. The plan was to start on Saturday, 2 days time. It's now Thursday. Catch an 8 o'clock train, and I've got to do 16.5 miles every day to get to where I want to be at the end of this trip. But having to travel down on a Thursday now means an 8 o'clock train is a better part of 200 quid. I couldn't book early because the weather was looking so bad down here. I wasn't even sure I was going to come back this week. So I've had to get a later train down. Like, it's 3 o'clock, just gone 3 o'clock now. So I'm never going to make the 16.5 miles today. So the plan today is just to walk till last light, find a flat spot to pitch a tent, and try and make the miles up over the next couple of days. It's bad, isn't it? I'm only 3 miles in, and I got waylaid by the first pub I come across. It may be a hike, but it's also the first day of my holiday. Cheers. I've just come across this. I'm sure this was used in a film called Rebecca on Netflix. Looks very familiar. Quick update. I just got to a really good wild camp spot just on a headland over here, right over my shoulder, but it was a bit windy up there, but that was going to be my fallback spot, and so I've got to Prussia Cove and I've got a spot in the campsite there. I haven't found the guy yet. He's out preparing a wedding, so I've got to find him later. But I thought I'd show you the gear I've bought for this one. I changed a few things out to make the load a bit lighter on this occasion as opposed to the last one, so I'll turn you around and show you what I got. So I've gone for a one-man tent on this one. The MSR Hubba Hubba was a great tent, I loved it, but I wanted to go on a one-man tent, but it was a bit lighter, so I bought the Big Agnes. I was just going to get the MSR one-man tent, but I found this is pretty much the same thing, but it's 8 inches wider at one end, at the head end, than it is at the foot end, whereas the MSR Hubba is the same width as the foot end all the way along. I had to get rid of the Big Agnes sleep pad because it took up almost the whole thing, so I've just gone with the Thermarest one. But the reason I went for this one is because I don't like the gear out in the porch area. I like my gear inside with me because I don't have to bag it up if it's raining. And with this tent being a bit wider, there's plenty of room for gear in here, as well as the sleep pad. Bit of a mess because I only just really thrown it all together. So I'm just laying down in my tent and trying to get comfortable, and there's a lady that I thought owned the campsite, so I asked her, is this the campsite, do you own it? And she said no, but just pitch your tent and set up. And then she just come over 20 minutes later and bought me a bottle of water and a little bottle of Prosecco. I don't know if my reputation is beginning to spread further than I thought, but amongst my friends it's a running joke that even my little brother calls me the Prosecco Princess. Put a beer in my fridge and it will still be there a year later. I don't know why, I just don't drink beer at home. But Prosecco, bosh, it's gone straight away. So it's quite funny how that's what she's chosen to bring me over. It was so nice of her, and she even offered me come in for a coffee. I don't drink coffee, it's fine, but there's a caravan, there are 3 ladies renting over there as well. Even they said come over, we've got a fire pit going, and come and have a coffee with us. But I think I'm just going to make it, turn in and get an early night. I think it's going to be 20 miles tomorrow if I'm to get to Lizard Point. So the plan is just to get up early, do 6 miles into Porthleven, maybe get some breakfast there, get some supplies, and then just really try and crank through the remaining 14 miles from Porthleven to Lizard. So I'm going to sign off for the night. and I will see you tomorrow. Good morning, and it is early. It's about 5:45 in the morning, which reflects how well I slept last night. I think within about half an hour of laying on that Thermarest sleep pad, I was missing the big thick Big Agnes one, because I just couldn't get comfortable all night. So I think I might ditch that when I come back for Plymouth onwards for the Big Agnes one. It was just, I slept so well on that, and that Thermarest, I don't think I slept for more than 20-30 minutes at a time. But had to deal with the wet tent morning. Very damp, obviously, because I think if I'd have stayed to about 8:30, 9 o'clock, the sun's not a cloud in the sky, it would have dried everything off. But I do need an early start today. So the plan is to march on in for 6 miles into Porthleven, get something to eat, pick up some lunch for later in the day, and then just try and see if I can get the 14 miles after that down to Lizard Point. That walk from Prussia Cove into Penzance, it's not an easy one. It was 2 miles, and it took me an hour and 3/4. Now granted, I was stopping quite a lot to film, because if I don't film a lot in the morning, I tend not to film hardly anything in the afternoons, because you get tired and you just want to push on. But every time I get into a town, on the last trip and now this trip, I just go the wrong way. I know there's a few of you that watch this have done the coast path. Paul Pilgrim, Glum Hiker, I'm looking in your direction here. Please get back to me and tell me I'm not the only one that gets lost every time you walk to a town. The signs just dry up. This is Wheelhouse Prosper. You can see it there. When you look at these inlands, they tend to let them go to pot a bit, but the ones on the coast, they do seem to make an effort to keep them structurally sound, obviously for the tourists. But they are lovely when you come across them. On the north coast, there's some really good ones. This was actually going to be my sort of last-minute fallback option for a wild camp. If I couldn't find anywhere, I'm glad I didn't bother, because I would never have made this before dark. I'd have been walking in the dark for an hour. And I already took the wrong trail. I took a trail down here, and the actual trail is further up this way. I don't know how I missed that, because it was actually worse walking down there than it would have been on the proper trail. It's me putting my head down and keep walking. But I have found that my trail runners are clearly no longer keeping the water out as well, because I've got wet socks. I should have reproofed them. I've never reproofed them in 2 years I've had them. So I've just got my first view. I believe that's Porthleven, because I can definitely see Low Bar there. That was originally where my first wild camp was going to be, if I'd have got here on time on the Saturday, if it wasn't for the train strikes. Because I wanted to do a beach camp, and I thought that'd be a really safe option. I don't have to worry about the tide coming in. But I believe that over there, that must be Lizard, which was my hopeful end point for today. And all I can think is, that's a long way. I'm not sure I'm going to make that. I'll have to give it a go, but I'm on time. I want to get to Porthleven for 9 o'clock, have some breakfast and a cup of tea, and get some supplies, get some lunch for today, and probably a bit extra food just in case I don't make Lizard. Excuse me, and end up having a wild camp. When you go past those mine buildings in the distance there, that's a tough little section through there. That's really up and down. Cool. It's the hardest bit so far since Penzance. Actually, it's not been too bad, but still feels I've got a long way to go, even just to go and get breakfast. But I'm looking forward to a cup of tea. I haven't got a stove this week. I didn't use it much on the north coast, and there's a town, 1 or 2 towns and cafes almost every day this week, so I didn't feel it was necessary. Look at this. Oh my days. I'm going to have to herd cattle now. Has someone left the gate open or what? Should they really be on here? Oh. I've seen this happen on some people's videos and I thought, nah, something's gone wrong. I have to herd these cows now. Fortunately there's only 3 big ones, but there's a baby there and I don't want to upset the mums. That's it, they know the score, I know the score. Get back in your field. Oh no, she's calling the posse. Uh-oh. She's calling the squad over. This is unnerving. Oh no, there's more coming over now. Look, they're all having a look. Come on, black one, you go. There's nowhere to go, it's only off the cliff and down here. I'll be running up there for sure. Come on. Go on, Daisy. Because I don't want to go within kicking distance of you. Good girl. Oh no, you keep going. Can you hear them on there? Oh, squeaky bum time that was. For a minute there I was thinking, what am I going to do? I've got to go through, there's no other way around. There's a cliff to one side and more cows the other side. Oh. I've just left Porthleven behind. That is absolutely the right kind of town at the right time. I went in there, there's a supermarket there, so I managed to get some stuff later on. There's a Boots there, so I managed to pick up some wet wipes to clean my trousers, which I've forgotten to bring with me. There's a Phelps pasty shop there. Cool. So I got a breakfast pasty for breakfast and a cup of tea and another pasty for later. But there's some picnic tables by the harbour down there, and I just took over the place. I had my tent out on one drying out, my trousers were drying out, I wiped them down on another one, socks are drying out, my trainers are drying out, and I just sat down and had my pasty and a cup of tea. It was lovely. Nice little harbour area, but it was nice and quiet, so I didn't abuse the situation. There was hardly anyone else there. But it's good to know now everything's dried off and squared away and the pack is all put back together as it should be now. And leaving Porthleven, the paths are looking, sorry, so much flies, looking so much better as well. Walk out of Porthleven is such a joy after what's come before. The 6 miles from Prussia Cove to Porthleven are tough. They're very winding, sometimes the path is only a foot wide, very wet and muddy, and you're up and down and back around and in and out again. And I was averaging sometimes less than 2 miles an hour. Now coming out of Porthleven, you've got a hardcore trail. It's uphill for some of the way, but not hard. And I've just done 2 miles in half an hour. Such a joy. I'm just coming past Poldhu Beach, just behind me there. I stopped at Gunwallow, there's a National Trust cafe there, for a tea. If I'd have known that there was a cafe at Poldhu Beach, I'd have pushed on there, because the one at Gunwallow, there's one bench to sit on, and some guys were sitting on that, which means I had to sit on the concrete, which wasn't very comfortable. I'm just in Lizard Nature Reserve now. Fortunately it's turning out to be relatively flat and wide open as I hoped it would be, but very muddy and marshy, almost like peat bog in places. I've not really been doing much walking through camera stuff today and the scenic stuff, just to get the miles done. I'll do that tomorrow onwards. But today, yeah, it's continued on really well since Porthleven. Just nice, easy trails to walk, enough hills to make it challenging enough for you, but really easy paths to walk. This is what it's been on the nature reserve in Lizard for the past mile or so. It's been really lovely actually. I think there's one big drop ahead of me, then it pretty much evens out again for, well, so at least as far as I can see. But yeah, the Lizard Park, once it actually dries out, it's a really lovely walk. Cracking little valley this. It's a bit, you've got to be careful going up and down, but you kind of come down here and back up. Got to watch where you go, and there's a couple of flat spots down there. And I only just got up this side and thought I haven't stopped for lunch yet. That'd been a lovely place to stop because there's a little waterfall running through there. Just these mammoth great rocks. So much more enjoyable today. This is Lizard Point. You can just see the lighthouse up there. So about a quarter of a mile to go to the end point today. So I've just got to Henry's campsite. I'm all set up there. £12 for the night it was. It's quite nice because you've got your own little section as well here. And there's a good shop in there with it as well. 20 miles today, big day. Feeling it a bit, but fortunately the terrain was on my side, very flat in a lot of places today. But really enjoyed it today. It was a good walk, but I'm going to sign off for the day because I'm going to go and have a pint and get some dinner and then have a shower as well. So I will see you tomorrow.